I am Pietru and I am a volunteer coordinator for Amakhala Volunteers. And today I'm doing part 2 of our chats with Amakhala's employees. Basically, part 1 was talking to our game manager as well as our head guide for the Woodbury Lodge, which was a few days ago. And today I'll be chatting about the volunteer section. And basically, I'll just cover our program and what we do and what our volunteers basically have been doing right before lockdown started and how it's affected the program. But yes, good. Okay, it's coming in. Okay, for a third time, I am Pietru. I'm the coordinator for Amakhala Volunteers, and I'll be chatting to you guys about our program and what we've been up to. Just hold on 5 seconds. How do I do that even? Not entirely sure. There's a setting on. I think that's going to make it worse. Hopefully it doesn't. Yeah. Trying to be tech savvy. Okay. Think there. Okay. Great. Just a brief background on... First off, thanks Roger and the Expedition Project for giving us this platform to tell you guys about us a little bit and about our program and what we do here at Amakhala and how we've come about to exist. And we've actually had a long existing relationship since 2012, if I'm not wrong. And yes, we're basically going to give an update. I have been with newbie in terms of how long. Unfortunately, my colleague who's done this for 4 years now with the volunteers could not be with me due to the social distancing and the lockdown, so I'll be carrying it out. But yes, I came on board in January, back when they decided to expand the program, because for a long period of time they had a max of 8 volunteers at a time, and then they had so many requests coming through that they want more volunteers to work at Amakhala and help us out and volunteer. So they decided to expand the program and therefore get a new coordinator to come into the picture. And so I came on in January, and things have been spruced up, jammed up, and so many things have happened since then. But unfortunately I had to stop for quite some time now due to the lockdown that's happening. We went from 8 volunteers that we had max to 16 volunteers at a time. The volunteer program basically have 3 main arteries, which are maintenance on the reserve, monitoring and ecology work, as well as community work. So basically our maintenance can go anything from doing erosion control to road maintenance to fence patrols to fence fixing to working on bomas to bush clearing. And we also have so then it goes to ecology, and our ecology sector, we help our ecologist where she needs help in terms of monitoring. We monitor our predators, our lions, our cheetah, our leopard that we recently released. Unfortunately, we could not get involved with that at that moment because as he got released, lockdown happened. So hopefully in the future, when we're back up and running, we'll jump into that as well. Then we also assisted with buffalo monitoring and other game counting involved. That's for ecology section. And then we've got the community side that we do also work on, which basically we have a big we've got a big part in Isipo, which is a now multi-purpose center located in Patterson, and we assist them by playing with the kids at the center. It has after school care and before school and during school care for children that either the parents can't take care of them at the time or that kind of thing. So we bring in our volunteers to play with the kids. We also have a bead program which they make bracelets for the kids, or the kids actually assist with making bracelets, and these bracelets, then the funds towards these bracelets, they go to various sectors such as the Amakhala Foundation, which is another part in the community we actually help out a lot. The Amakhala Foundation, they're actually part 3 for Amakhala, and they will talk about their things. But just briefly, we have assisted them in specific days that they like to do during the year, which include sports days, Arbor Day. We helped with World Read Aloud Day. We would have assisted with Water Day, and then lockdown happened in that week. So unfortunately, we could not have done that. But then we assist them. So we assist the Amakhala Foundation, Isipo Multipurpose Center, and then Sudbury School, which is a local school here for primary kids. We help out with their literacy programs, and we basically assist where they get taught in the library to read. We do letter games with them, word games with them, and we just help them work on their vocabulary and pronunciation. So basically, yes, our program can go from anything from being a 1 weeker to an 8 weeker. Average out, they come in and they do about 3 weeks on average, but I would personally say a 4 weeker has a really good chance of getting into action with everything we do. Every week is different, no week is the same. You're not going to have the exact same day, the exact same week. Maintenance can always change, monitoring can always change. You can always sit in. There's always a chance if something had to happen on the reserve with the vet work that we can possibly observe what they're doing. If there is a relocation of any predators, we could get the chance to get invited to observe. So yes, there's always a chance to do that. And then we also have special things that we do with our volunteers just to basically give back to them for helping out so much. And generally those are excursions that we take them out. And we also have a collaboration of sorts with other sectors of the reserves, such as Amakhala horse trails, also Amakhala Big Five walks. We generally assist and we take them out, and they have a great time on foot to see the Big Five. The horse trails, they go on to Carnarvondale on the horseback, and they can view the cheetah from a distance, so it's a pretty cool experience. But yeah, we also have a new project that's happening, and it was, yes, postponed as of now. It is the Spec Boom project. So what happened is that we were creating little plants of Spec Boom in a nursery, and the idea would have been to start sample plots on the reserve in order to create new Spec Boom forests. The reason for that is Spec Boom, if you don't know it, is a succulent plant. It's a shrub that can grow up to about 2 to 5 meters in height. Elephants love it. It's full of vitamin C, but the reason for planting it is a carbon sponge. It removes the carbon from the air, therefore clearing it, and it is of great value in all kinds of things. So basically what we would have done, or what we started doing, is we created this nursery which before we stopped, now it was about 2,000 plants already, and we would have sold them off, funding going towards the Amakhala Foundation, each plant going for a small amount, depending on, it was still a discussed topic, but these plants we'll plant them in plots, and hopefully it's a long-term plan, but 10 years from now, if they're well cared for, they would create a new little forest. And very long-term, 20 years from now, the idea would be to fill up the corridors between reserves, and one day something can happen. Someone can decide to drop fences or anything, but basically, ideally, just replanting them so that we can limit our carbon footprint, basically. Yeah. So yeah, I covered the main 3 veins that we focus on with our volunteer program: the maintenance on the reserve, the need for that, and because there's only so much that our maintenance team can get to at once, so our volunteers are of great help, that they can do the things that it might seem like such a small thing to fix a fence, but you wouldn't know how big of a difference that makes. Same thing goes for the ecologists. The ecologists can't view all the predators at once or all the herbivores at once, so therefore we come in and we help assist in a different side of the reserve. And our community plays a big role in any conservation situation. A happy community makes a happy area, and so we give back in that way. We try to give back as much as we can, and then also it gives a volunteer more of an insight on the rural side of South Africa and just our people in general. So I don't know how much I've talked so far. If anyone has questions, let me see. Ooh, I covered something here. Well, let me just see. I had to close it. Shoot. Yeah. So yeah, if anyone does have any questions, please help me if I forgot to say anything. Anyone that's logged in right now, please feel free to ask me that question and I will cover it. But basically, yeah, so our program can take up to 16 volunteers at a time. And if you like, I can explain to you, oh, got one question coming in. Oh, that's a good one. So the aspects that the volunteer seem to like the most, it goes from different age groups to genders and so on. We find that the younger men do prefer doing the maintenance aspects in like bush clearing and road maintenance and erosion, whereas the women tend to lean more towards the monitoring and monitoring of predators especially. And then the more, if it comes down to the Spec Boom project especially, we found that the elderly people, they preferred it as well. Just the more, it's a garden aspect as well. So it seems like it's a small job at the time because you're just creating these little plants, but in a bigger picture, they have a big role to play. We have another one. How can the vet students get involved? So on the wildlife vet aspects, we only have, could you say, more of an invitation side to it. If they would like us to view it, or they are free for us to view it, then we can go view it. We unfortunately do not have anything to do with the wildlife vet side, but I can go find out for you about that question, and I'm happy to come back to you on that. That might have more something to do with Dr. William Folds and his side of the things concerning Amakhala. So Johan wants to know, so the volunteer house situated in Patterson it's got a really nice location in terms of, besides that it has a swimming pool, and it's been expanded to accommodate all 16 possible volunteers. And our numbers did actually grow really fast due to the fact that we had so much backing up and we had lists of people in case someone dropped out, they'd come in. Now it's a case of it's a constant, there's always people coming through. So our numbers were looking really good. We went from that 8 immediately in February up to, I think, 13, 14, and we would have hit 60 now in March until the pandemic happened, unfortunately. But the house that they live at, it is 20-second walk from a really well-known location where people can gather called Sandflats Bar. And it's actually a Airbnb, or no, just a B&B, but it's a really nice place. And I know for a fact that every volunteer that goes there has the greatest memories for some reason, because that's where all the volunteers just bond with each other. So the fees to join the program, that is from Johan van Rooyen. I am not entirely sure of the exact number. I'm happy to contact you personally and send it through for you, just because I don't deal with the financial side of things. That is another lady in our department. So I am happy to send that through to you if you would like that. Okay, we have one from Roger. Other projects local volunteers can help with? Local volunteers, we don't necessarily advertise amongst local volunteers, only due to the fact that Amakhala is so far from the biggest towns, being we have Grahamstown about a 35-minute, and then we have PE, which is about an hour's drive away. I'm sure it's open to that. We've had very few, but we have had South Africans in the past to assist us and help out and so on. And if anything, right now during lockdown, I haven't actually covered what lockdown did to us, and I'll get to that now, but during lockdown, if anything, the volunteer program has stopped, but we still have a few game rangers and other employees that stay on certain areas of Amakhala that is assisting the Amakhala Foundation. As of now, we are actually helping the Amakhala Foundation create masks, which they are providing to the local communities. Each household will get, I believe, 2 masks, and it's a self-made mask out of a material and just plain, what do you call them, band-aids, or not band-aids, I can't remember, rakkies, the word. but we've been assisting in creating those. It's unfortunately, so you can consider them local volunteers because they are employees of Amakhala still, but currently, because no one can work, we've just been doing that really. But we don't really have any local volunteers per se, and we don't advertise amongst them because it's such a big thing amongst tourists and in general. I feel like there was one. Oh, I was about to cover the lockdown. So as soon as the lockdown hit, just like the tourists in the lodges, we unfortunately had to say goodbye to majority of our volunteers at the time, due to the government actually being really good, and they called us up and they said, we're fully aware that these people are still with you on the property, and what are your plans with them? So we had to give them the option, and many of them at the time could actually make themselves good arrangements to actually head home or to go to a different area. But we had 3 that unfortunately did not have that opportunity. So we gave them the chance and they stayed within our accommodation that we have there. And they basically stayed on as just residents of the accommodation, and they paid a Airbnb fee, you could say. 2 of those have had now. One left within the first week. She got a flight out. And the second one left, I think, in the 3rd week. And we have one guy left who I don't think he has too much of an issue with it, because unfortunately the flights that the countries had set for their residents of those countries, those stopped at the time, so he couldn't get one of those. And he now has to wait until we reach another level for our borders to open so that he can just get a international flight out. Let me just double check what's happening. Okay, let's see. Hein asks, are you only planting Spec Boom, or do you plan to do other species later as they develops? Yes. So at the moment we're only focusing on Spec Boom just because it has so many benefits to it, and really carries the main benefit of why we're starting this. But the long-term plan, like I said, is to create proper forests which include acacia karus and coral trees and etc. And we want to basically create those forests within the corridors that are between all the reserves in the area. It's just a long-term dream of Amakhala, and I'm sure surrounding neighboring reserves, to one of these years that's coming to basically drop our fences, and to do so we actually have to close up the open areas, and it carries so many benefits in terms of, like, it is ideal for black rhino to create proper thicket areas. So yes, at this time, and I'm assuming for the next few years, we will only properly, it's called the Spec Boom project, focus on Spec Boom, because it's also one of the easiest plants to replant. You break off a little bit, plant it in the soil, and a few weeks later it's already rooted and done great. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, wait, first we'll do plant coral trees as well? Yes. So we have a few, Jan's correct, we do have a few coral tree saplings, you could say, but they were more so to see how easy it could be to plant them. I think they took a while, and it took a good green thumb, thanks to my colleague Evan, who did that. He's really good at replanting new seeds and just creating new things. But in the future, if there's an easier way, due to the fact that it's a volunteer project, so the volunteers will have to carry it out. So we want to make it as easy as possible for them to understand, so that they can carry the program on and on easier. But basically, yeah, a typical day in a volunteer, so basically our weeks are planned out as follows. So Mondays and Wednesdays are allocated, half of the day would be a community day, and the other half would be either a game drive excursion on the reserve, or we will do a night drive, or we'll do something more, or we'll do a Northern Territory report, because Amakhala is divided into 3 sectors. We've got the main reserve, we've got Carnarvondale, and we've got Northern Territory. So Northern Territory, we kind of take into our responsibility, where we do a weekly report and checking up on the water holes and the roads conditions, and counting the game and the fence line, and just checking that everything's in order. So that would generally happen on a Wednesday or a Monday. Tuesdays and Thursdays are allocated for monitoring and maintenance of the reserve, of the main reserve, or of the other sectors of the reserve. And generally, so they could either wake up around 7 or 8 and we'd be heading out. Between 8 and 9 we'll be on the reserve and we'll do some sort of maintenance. It could be something from erosion control to bush clearing to road maintenance, and we'll generally try and stay on the reserve for the whole day due to the fact that Patterson is quite a drive away, and we prefer to move through the reserve. And to give you an idea, from Patterson all the way onto main reserve it takes about an hour and a half, so it's a good day in a car. That much I can say, but it is worthwhile, because I mean, it's not like you're going somewhere on the N2 and you're just constantly seeing cars. You basically having to see nature all around you constantly with the big five. Ooh, let me keep track here. So yeah, so as I said, a day could be so different, but to give you a basic idea, in a week, Fridays are generally allocated for an excursion day. So we, like I said, try and make it nice and give back to our volunteers, because they spend so much time working hard with us. And Fridays would be that we give them the opportunity to either have a day or two stay at Kenton-on-Sea, which is a local beach town, and we also have, like I said, the Amakhala horse trails that we can make and let them go out. If you don't like horse trails, we also generally split the day between, if you don't like that one, we would do something else with you. We've got boat rides out on the Bushman River. We've also got canoeing happening and all kinds of fun excursions. So those generally happen on your Friday. But your day would plus minus to be between 8 to max 10 hours depending, and those include the time that you spend on the road. So you could finish the day around 4 on the reserve and we'll be back home between 5, 6. But then we also, like I said, we also do bush camping, where we try and give you a great outdoor bush experience where you can do stargazing and you can build your own fire, and it's without tents, and it just gives you such a lovely experience in the bush. During winter season, if you're lucky enough, you can form a part of the game counts and the game captures that we do on the main reserve. So there's really so many different things that can happen as a volunteer here. So yeah, it's quite, you can't, unfortunately, I can't just go and say that it's stuck on this and this. That's what makes it so exciting, is that every week can be different, and that's why it's recommended to go between 3 and 4 weeks, I would say, average. And if you really want to spend a great amount of time and meet multiple different people from all over the world, 8 weeks, and then you become the OG here, basically. Let me see so that I don't skip over questions. What volunteer skills are most in need right now? Things that could really help specific aspects of the projects. We need people that can endure hard work. So if it comes down to maintenance, we can't do with anyone that is not willing to use a spade or use a panga or use shears. We need people that are able to stick it out and work hard. We don't like loafers. We don't like people, or we don't like, that's a little too rough. It's more so, being a volunteer, it's not, you shouldn't think of it, you already paid that amount of money, so basically you gave back to the environment. You came here to do your work, so we would like you to actually help out with the work. So basically we need people that look forward to an 8-hour day on the reserve and don't kind of moan in a sense that it's going to be a long day, and because so I would say hardworking people, motivated people, enthusiastic people that see the good in the smallest amount of thing. Even if it means you just planted 100 Spec Boom that day, that should be it for you. That should be a good job done, because you'd understand the smallest thing, even if it meant all you had to do was count and observe the buffalo for the day. That meant something to the ecologist. That means something to the data that we are taking. Every little job on the reserve is important, and it's like I said, we can't get to that all the time. That's where the volunteers come in. You are of great help and of great need, and without you, it's such a tough life for us on this side, because only so many of us can really be employed. The rest, we honestly do need you guys. So nature enthusiasts, people that want to be outdoors, people that want to make a difference in conservation, and go home with a big bright smile on their face that they did make that bit of a difference. Please do come. Do not, this is one thing that I have to put emphasis on, don't come with the mindset that you are going to build a school in Africa. A lot of people come on this side, not many of ours. We've had amazing volunteers in my short time that I've been here. But you do get, for what I've known, volunteers that have come and they're like, have this mindset that they're going to build a school within a few days. And it's not like that. You're not going to suddenly just put up a new school. That's why you should think of the smallest to the biggest thing that you're going to do here. Everything is important for conservation. Everything comes together, basically. Let me see. Do you guys have local volunteers or international only volunteers? So we focused on international volunteers, but we have had local volunteers in the past. Very few, generally because it's means for, instead of coming to Africa just as a tourist, you basically come out and help in a sense. So we kind of cater for international volunteers, but I do believe we have had in the past local volunteers as well. I'm not entirely sure how well we are advertised amongst them, but I am happy to find out for you, Aiden, if you would like me to, and I can come back to you on the aspects thereof. Let me see a follow-up version projects. Okay, let me read this one first. A follow-up, are community versus conservation projects an even split 50-50 or one part more for volunteers? Again, it really depends on the week, but we try and make it as even as possible. We try not to give the one more attention than the other one because, like I said, those are our three main veins, which is community, conservation / ecology, as well as maintenance. We have to keep a lot of people happy on the reserve, so kind of why we stuck to the rhythm, and it's a new thing that we did. Generally in the beginning, there used to be more of a let's see what's going to happen and where we can fill the gap type of thing. So now we're trying a new system which has been working pretty well, where we have specific days allocated for specific jobs. So community versus conservation is pretty equal. For community days, they're Mondays and Wednesdays. We try and go to Isipo. Mondays are allocated in the mornings for Sidbury School, where we help out with the literacy. In the afternoons, we will either go visit Isipo and just play with the kids and interact with them a little bit. Also, we're trying to implement the same literacy program that we have at Sidbury School, which is a more developed school, at the community, this Isipo community in Patterson. That being said, and then conservation side, again, they have Tuesdays and Thursdays allocated for them, and on Mondays we generally have a discussion with our ecologist, and she will tell us what to focus on those days concerning monitoring and anything, as well as maintenance and conservation. They share days just for the purpose that we have to go to the main reserve to complete them. So we would normally have a half day focus on the one and a half day focus on the other, sticking to those days so that we don't have to make the big drives back and forth, because it takes such a big chunk of our day, and we want to avoid the whole carbon footprint. Let's see, Aiden, do you have any specific wildlife projects happening, carnivore research or rhino specific projects? For our volunteers specifically, no. But we do assist, I mean, like I said, with our buffalo herd that we have in the Northern Territory, we used to assist with them. I know that they are just special in terms of the fact that we have a few lone bulls on the main reserve, but we have a buffalo herd on Northern Territory, and we used to assist the ecologists just by viewing them and by monitoring them. They're not specifically a project at all, but I know they have purpose for her in that term, because they would want to do game sales and just basically carnivore research. Again, not a volunteer thing, but we do have our cheetah on the Carnarvondale side. But those are topics that should preferably be covered by our manager and ecologist. It's just the basics behind the cheetah on Carnarvondale is he is a how do you say it? A captive born bred cheetah that was released in the wild, and he mated with a wild female cheetah, and they just had two cubs. They were sighted as lockdown happened, and they are now living a great time for the last 5 weeks with no vehicles observing them or anything. They've got the freedom of the whole Carnarvondale to themselves, and it's a good time for them to basically just be baby cubs and have fun. Our rhino, no projects for us specifically. Again, that's just more on the rhino. It would be more on the vet side of things if they have any projects. Besides that, we do have a new rhino baby that was born on Easter weekend. On Easter Day, if I'm not correct, it was a Sunday. The Sunday morning at 1 or something, she was born, and she was named Holly. But yes, so she was born, and we also have a baby hippo who was born recently. But unfortunately, Aiden, we don't have any projects per se, but we are there for the volunteers. We basically assist when needed. So the Spec Boom is a side project that we did start because there's no one on the reserve that really focused on the vegetation side of things besides the bush clearing and those kinds of things. So we took it into our hands. We noticed there was an issue, we noticed there was a need, and it's also a project that many reserves in the area have started in their own time. So there was a need for it, and so we took it on. And it's been something that we've been doing for the past 3 years but haven't actively actually implemented and planted. So it was it even a week from going on foot and actually happening, and then lockdown happened, unfortunately, but the nursery is still standing and it's still being cared for. We are literally just waiting for lockdown to be over and things to get up and running again so that we can get that thing going. Let's see, do you have any specific wildlife? So I answered that one for you. Rob, hi, Peaches just joined the group. Power at the volunteer house has been restored, but Wi-Fi is a little... Oh, nice. Hi, Rob. So Rob is our only volunteer that I spoke about earlier that is still at the volunteer house, and he is currently... so Rob is still currently there. I'm sorry to hear about. I'm glad the power is back on, because Patterson, unfortunately, sometimes... you get load shedding in town and sometimes things happen, but power's back on, but the Wi-Fi is a little iffy. Okay, that's a bad one, but good. I'm glad you're back on, Rob. Let's see. Do you find many volunteers come back and maybe do the guiding course offered at Ulavani, or maybe the Vet Go Wild courses? I know Ulavani borders Amakhala and the vets. Yes, that's true. Sorry, that was a cool, really long one. Let me see. I'm sure some volunteers fall in love with the industry and the country and Seems like a good way to find it. Oh, you're definitely right. You're not wrong. So, Jonathan, on that question, so it's a few-part question. Yeah, so we have a few that do come back every month or so. We have one we had 2 in the last 3 months that have come back. One was here 3 years ago, and the other was here, I believe, either a year or so ago. But they do come back, and those are the best volunteers. They're all great, they're all amazing, but those are great because, and they fully enjoy it just because they also get to see the transition on the reserve. They get to see how the vegetation have changed. They get to see, for instance, if a rhino was born in the time that they were here, what their rhino looks like now, or if the rhino's doing great, and all those kinds of things. So they definitely are. They definitely do return. I am not sure about whether or not they do go and they come do the guiding course and stuff. I do know of someone that is interested in, for instance, becoming a part of the APU, if possible. Not our APU specifically, but possibly joining an APU course to, in the future, become a part of an APU team somewhere. So they do, it is an amazing thing to always hear why volunteers do decide to come volunteer, why they came to this country, what led them to leave their countries to see ours. And it's always such a great transition to see them before they leave, or not even. Some extend, some come for 6 weeks and they decide, no, I want to stay for 8 weeks, which is always the best feeling because that means we did our job and they enjoyed their time here. But it's always a great thing before they leave if they made that decision to either, for instance, like you asked, join Ulavani, or, for instance, go to the vet to do courses there, or the third option would be to possibly look up any APU possibilities for them. So there's always those chances. I'm not sure about any myself, but they are there. They're always available for you. It's not like it's a no-go. That would actually be such a great goal in our job if we can make you want to stay and want to help and want to assist. So definitely. And you're not wrong. They do fall in love. I can say it myself. I fall in love every day, and I can be the happiest. I am the happiest person, and I'm very grateful to say that I luckily do not live in a town at the time. I am situated on a farm, and I will happily live like this sustainably and super content. Let's see. After sending some, I'm assuming it's spending some time with the Amakhala group, it has confirmed that I would like to be a part of the APU. Yay! So I can name him now, Rob. So Rob was the volunteer who wants to be a part of the APU team, and that is amazing, and it makes me very happy if that is the outcome of our thing. If that is what they take from it, besides it was a great experience, if they take from it that they want to return to visit us again, or they want to become a part of the APU team somewhere, it makes me the happiest person, because that means we did our job. We made them enjoy their time here, and they, even if it wasn't a part of myself or my colleague that take the credit for it, if it's just them being in this environment and conservation itself, it's good. It makes me happy. Do you have any funny volunteer stories? Tanya, you'll have to come here and have to listen to me personally say them. I can't off my head think of anything that's appropriate for all audience, but there are some really funny stories, some really good stories. But if not funny stories, at least I can say that I know some true stories of people that come from various countries and they stay, and it's especially really nice if you arrived in the same week, for instance, that they become the bestest of friends, and before they leave, how they have exchanged names, numbers, addresses. We have people that live streets away from each other. That was the most funniest story, and those guys became inseparable, and it's beautiful, really. Funny stories. I'll think about it, and hopefully before the end of this, I can name you one. But right now, unfortunately, I can't. From mentioned in his live stream that they help on other reserves. Do you visit or help on other reserves other than Amakhala? We do not help on other reserves. We specifically focus on Amakhala. Besides assisting with the communities outside of Amakhala, and being the schools as well. But so we focus specifically on Amakhala Reserve, just because there's such a big need for it on our reserve. There's only so many things that our employees can get to and do, and that is where we can assist. And hopefully, also because the program just expanded recently this January, from 8 to 16 volunteers. Hopefully that could be the goal, that if there's enough work on the reserve, that we can expand and actually assist with other reserves. It would be great to have some sort of collaboration with other reserves around the area. We have so many neighboring reserves, but as of now we do not collaborate with anyone, but I hope if things get back up and running and it's a healthy system, that could be something that we can look into, definitely. Here we go. Mainly Scarlet moments. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Rob. You can happily post something if you can remember anything funny. But I don't know why I'm blanking. Scarlet was a dream. Oh, she was lovely. Oh, there's so many I can name that just, they're really good. And funny. Thanks. Okay, so here. What's the vibe in Paterson on the community projects now during lockdown? So again, okay, I haven't properly really, so with lockdown happening, unfortunately our program had to stop. We do not have any volunteers due to the borders being closed and our volunteers being sent back. We only have Rob that is stuck in Paterson, but I'm sure that he has a good time there. He's got a few people to just keep him busy there, at least, and some Wi-Fi running to do some Netflix, I'm sure, and a swimming pool. But currently, I believe Isipo is closed in Paterson. Sudbury School is closed, which isn't situated in Paterson, but the kids do go. They live in, majority of some live in Paterson. So we are not interacting at all with schools or any community things due to social distancing, because it's really important. As bad as this was, and it had a really big knock on the conservation and tourism industry, sadly, but for good reason, really. Not good reason, but more so We need this. We need everything that the president has put into place, and even though it will take a good amount of time for us and everyone to just get back onto our feet and get everything back up and running, our country needs this, the world needs this, and everyone kind of needs to keep to the rules, keep to to everything that's been laid out. And thankfully, we're going to move up a few levels soon, so hopefully it's not too long of a wait. But unfortunately, the program has stopped for the time being, and we'll have to wait till things get better. And without volunteers, there is no program. So as soon as the borders open, as soon as all the restrictions have been lifted, please come back. We need you. The reserve needs you. On the reserve side, I mean, besides, it's definitely not doing bad without the foot and vehicle work on the reserve. Like, I mean, I'm sure the reserve is actually thriving, but definitely it definitely will need some work. I mean, we do need fence patrols. We still need to do game counts. We still need to do bush clearing. Roads will definitely, some bushes will have to need be cut back. We'll need to help out with ecology and monitoring. Ecology has a lot of restrictions on them currently, because we have to financially, help yourself out in a sense. So if we can get back in there and assist them, it'll help a lot, I'm sure. And community-wise, it's going to be so great for us to get back and actually do what we used to do and actually help those kids and them seeing us again and us assisting them. But yes, lockdown has unfortunately stopped the program. But no, not too much to stress about. I think I covered majority of the questions. If I didn't, please feel free to add them in there. Tell me if I skipped over your question. Trying to think. Myself. Who am I? So my story goes back, I did my degree in conservation back in 2016, I got it. And so I decided, I've got my degree now, what am I going to do with myself? I'm not ready yet, but definitely wanted to set foot back into conservation. But before then, I wanted to see the world. I was used to my hometown, I was used to the small little town, so I traveled abroad. I got to work in Thailand a little bit, work with foreigners there, worked with them as colleagues as well as kids. I taught some English. And then I went to the US and I worked there for another year to work with other foreigners and things so that I can actually gain experience from people around the world, live abroad, see how they live, give them my idea of how I live. And I came back and I was ready. And then luckily I had really good close friends at Amakhala, and I came to visit them and I just saw this ad and I applied, and it was the perfect job in terms of knowing that I'm still in conservation, but I get to work with foreign people from around the world, and it's something that I've always loved, and I love learning about new cultures and just people in general. So the opportunity was there and I took it, and it was amazing, and I'm happy, and I just wanted to go back to what it was, basically. I think that is it, and I just want to say thank you for everyone that came on and watched the video and asked all these questions. If there are any more questions, I actually do have one. Mandy from Nkwanza and also Dwayne, Brad, and McCullers have mentioned that they couldn't think of any negative impacts of tourism on conservation. Do you feel the same? No. They go hand in hand. So tourism and conservation do go hand in hand. We are very dependent on tourism in all factors. I mean, in volunteers, we obviously need them because they help out, as I've touched on. But financially, conservation is very dependent on it. Majority of our funds do come from it. Dr. William Folds had an amazing talk on just a combination of how the coronavirus pandemic happened and how and the Spec Boom project and what we wanted and planned for it, and also how it's going to impact on rhino poaching and those kinds of things, and all of which really come down to financial support. And without tourism, conservation has a big struggle. We're very dependent on other sources and private sectors that give funds to us and possibly fund toward the foundation. But the volunteer program is very dependent on volunteers to bring in those funds, so those funds can be distributed among the reserve, amongst areas in the reserve, sectors in the reserve. So personally, not from our side. And volunteers' side, it is completely a positive impact. We need volunteers slash tourists to assist us on the reserve and to help us on the reserve. So let me just see. Last one. Only bad part about tourism is leaving carbon footprint. Yeah, not wrong there at all, Hein. This can be given back doing conservation efforts. Very true. Good job, guys. Very true. So yes, if you think of this can become a big debate on, okay, is it really good because of, the flight and everything that they have to take to get to this country. True, but they do give back. So, and then on a bigger scale in terms of that, they do give back. We see an absolute difference as soon as the volunteers step in. I mean, honestly, there's no bad thing that I can think of. So yes, volunteers do great. And again, to finish it off, thanks to Roger and the Expedition Project to give us this platform for us to actually talk about our program and how it's affected us, unfortunately, the lockdown, but how we are staying positive and we are completely on board on every level that President Ramaphosa has set up for us, and that how we are going to stay true to it and wait it out, and just as soon as it's done, we are sure that everything's going to come back to the right way that it's supposed to be. And yeah, please feel free to look at our website. It's easy as amakalavolunteers.co.za, and do look at theexpeditionproject.com. On their website. We also have a page on there if you don't manage to find our website. And please do feel free. We also have a Facebook page, Amakhala Volunteers, and I'm hoping that I'm actually viewing through that page right now. But thank you so much for everyone's questions that came through. I hope I answered them. And if I didn't, really, please feel free to inbox us. If you have any questions standing, I'm happy to answer them. And if I don't have to answer right now for you, I will happily go find it and send it back to you. Let's see. All hail Spec Boom. Indeed. Thanks, guys.